LA taxpayers spent more than $17 million on the police response to some of those anti-ICE protests last summer. A new LAPD review of what happened looks at how it was managed, but doesn't address many of the community complaints about what happened. Investigative reporter Eric Leonard joins us now from the newsroom with a closer look at that review. Eric.
Hi, Carolyn. Well, the LAPD calls this its after-action report that looked at how the department managed days of protests and hundreds of arrests. At a police oversight meeting earlier today, many members of the public were critical that this review didn't examine the full picture of what happened.
You are disrupting the meeting.
Some members of the public angrily addressing the Board of Police Commissioners over this after-action report that shows the city spent millions paying officers in overtime for the crowd control during the protests in June 2025. The report is an examination of how the department managed staffing with so many officers sent to downtown LA. It described their uses of various weapons and how arrests of demonstrators could have been handled better. It noted that chemical agents were used on crowds 2 times, the first time they'd been used in that way by the LAPD in decades. Missing was an accounting of numerous complaints that officers used lots of physical force on protesters who weren't violent and turned less than lethal weapons on some journalists.
I've read the federal ICE protest after action report. It's an insult. Pages on officer injuries, hostile actions, arrests, munitions, equipment costs. Every operational headache gets full accounting. Journalists only show up as logistical problems.
We see firsthand that LAPD consistently escalates. Yes, there are violent and dangerous people in the crowds, but they're in your department.
Other LAPD officials explained the report was not meant to address everything that happened. Rather, it was a compilation of lessons learned so the department can be better prepared for future protests. Chief Jim McDonald told the commissioners the physical force, chemical, and other weapons sometimes used was a response to violence, and says the protests happened after months of managing other problems.
The level of violence was unprecedented as far as a crowd management or crowd control situation. We had over 50 of our officers injured during this period of time. One disaster after another last year: fires, floods, mudslides, the unrest, the enforcement, and then throughout the duration of the year and into this year, then demonstrations on a multi-weekly basis.
The commissioners today had lots of questions and asked the chief for more information, particularly about those complaints of excessive force and how those are being addressed. I'm investigative reporter Eric Leonard, NBC4 News.